Well, that's one of the reasons I like this country. It's young.
Thank you.
It's eager. It's constantly looking towards the future. Now, I've been thinking.
Pass me some toast. Thanks.
I'd like to apply for citizenship.
Really?
I've lived all over the world, and I've never really had a strong attachment to England. And I want our child to have a real home.
Our child.
Hi, everybody. I'm Peter Travers, and welcome to Popcorn, where we tell you what is poppin' in the culture. And for me, there is only one show, and it's Outlander. And that show has kept me waiting. I mean, they call it the Outlander drought. I don't know what these guys were doing for, like, to me it was 11 years. But it's back now, season 3, and Caitriona Balfe is my guest today. Of course, is Claire. And I'm sure you have a million questions. So, Caitriona.
Hello.
Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
I have to say that Caitriona throws so many people because all you Irish people throw in an extra vowel whenever
love our
you
vowels.
can.
I know. My mom was obsessed with too many vowels.
Just tossed in there.
Well, you're lucky because I took the accent off. Normally there's an accent in there as well, but it was just confusing people even more. So.
Oh, it's awful when we're reviewing something and we have the accent. What key do I hit for that?
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
exactly.
I just want to talk about it and do it. Now, I know you're going to tell me nothing, you know, about what really happens, but we'll pretend. But when we left off in season 2,
yeah, big cliffhanger.
you went through this, you had gone through the stones, you have a grown-up daughter, everything is happening, and here I am speaking this and saying it's like some kind of brigadoon that then becomes this love story filled with violence, filled with gore, and yet what you're doing in it is so beautiful because you're so gifted at doing it, that we care about this relationship that you and Jamie, you know.
Yeah, I mean, it's the great love story at the heart of this show. You know, Diana Gabaldon wrote this beautiful relationship, and you know, this season it is very different when we go back in the beginning because my story at least starts pretty much where we left off episode 1 of season 2. So we pick up with Claire and Frank, which is the other relationship in the love triangle, I guess. We pick up with them in Boston, and we see them. Claire's just come back through the stones. She's pregnant with Jamie's child.
I see what you're saying now.
I know.
Now I'm going to stop you
We're going to have
there.
a diagram.
Well, suppose somebody's watching and they said, oh, I like something about Caitriona. I really am going to watch the show. And they'll think that both of us are babbling morons. What?
They might not be wrong with me.
What are we really talking about? So I'm going to put you on the spot and just it's more than the size of a tweet, but how can you set up who Claire Randall Fraser is? Yeah.
So Claire was a combat nurse in the 1940s, and at the end of World War II, herself and her husband Frank went to Scotland to rekindle their romance.
That's the place to go.
Yeah. So she came upon a circle of standing stones, and she got transported 200 years back in time, where she met this group of Highlanders, and her life was in peril, so she was forced to marry one of them, Jamie Fraser, who she falls madly, deeply in love with, and it's the great big love story at the heart of this. But Claire, being from the future, knows that the Highland culture is about to be decimated by the Redcoats and the British. So her and Jamie go on this battle, or this journey, to stop Culloden happening and to change the course of history. Doesn't go very well. So then we get to season 3. That's season 1 and 2. And season 3, she's pregnant in the 18th century, and he sends her back through the stones to the 20th century to save the life of their child.
So sure, their baby is born 200 years later.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a 200-year-old baby when she's born. It's the curious case of Brianna Fraser.
I don't know. I just think if this little moment should be put into a time capsule for people to say, what is happening?
Yeah, I
So-
mean, it's a crazy premise, but I do think, you know, within that we have these beautiful relationships that do feel very real. And, you know, the Jamie and Claire love story is the aspirational one. The Frank and Claire this season is really the kind of very real. It feels very timely. It's the two people who.
What do you mean?
Well,
really bad relationship?
Kind of. It,
Yeah.
it feels like it fits very well in that 50s, 60s time period. You have, you know, two people who they're good people, but they miss each other. They can't give each other what they need or want, and you know, it's quite tragic.
Sometimes I feel very sorry for Tobias Menzies for what he has to play. Even when he gets to be the husband back in the 40s and 50s, and not the horrendous
Black Jack Randall.
Black Jack Randall that
I
he's
mean-
doing, raping everyone in sight. I mean,
Yeah.
he's just,
He has a penchant for that. So
He
he's a
really
little bit of a
does.
sadist. But Tobias is an incredibly talented actor.
Is he a fun guy?
He's so lovely. And he is, actually. He's quite goofy. You wouldn't think so.
No,
but,
you wouldn't.
He and I have a good laugh when we work together. But he gives such heart to Frank. I mean, I think in the book series, Frank is a little bit less of a sympathetic character. But in the show, you know, Tobias really gives him this lovely gentleness and this heart. So you root for Frank as well. And in fairness, his wife went off, fell in love with somebody else in the past, and came back pregnant. So he's a good guy. He takes her back in.
He does. It's kind of a really strange excuse. I went through the Stones.
It wasn't my fault.
was
It was
back
200
there
years ago.
In 1747.
Is it cheating if you're not even born yet?
I think it's not. I think it's the minute we actually invent time travel, you know.
I know. I mean, it's going to be very complicated divorce proceedings once that happens, right?
Well, it's all because those of us that love this show, we basically fall in love with what you and Sam are doing. I don't mean that it's only the sex, although that's pretty amazing. Did you know him before that?
No. We met the first time at our chemistry read.
There's a feeling that comes across off camera when you're just talking to each other.
Well, we like each other's company.
You can just say anything to that person.
Oh, yes.
You're a
we
pain in
do.
the ass. Get out of my way. What's the most annoying thing about Sam? Does he have something that irritates you?
Very little.
There must be something that
he's
always is.
annoyingly like perfect. Like he is annoyingly like a nice person. That's probably one of the most annoying things.
It really
and
is.
also he's got boundless energy. He like, I'm just not. If I have 45 minutes, I'm staying in bed. I'm not going to the gym. And he's like, oh, I was at the gym this morning. I did an hour and a half. And I'm just like, oh, really? Like,
Yeah, get out of my face.
yeah.
There is that scene where Jamie, you know, hits you.
Yeah.
Do you have input into that? Do you say, what?
Well, we have the source material, which is the book, so you know what's coming, and
But
then
still, we're all now
yeah.
saying, wait, what? You know, Caitriona could take him.
We do have a very, I feel very fortunate. We do have a good open dialogue with the writers. You know, I think when you have to approach scenes like that, there's always two perspectives. Obviously, Jamie is from that time, so you have to look at, well, in his time, that was perfectly acceptable. For me, approaching scenes like that, Claire's opinion of that and where her mind is coming from is very similar to where I'm coming from. So it's a little bit easier, you know. Claire thinks that that's absolutely, you know, abhorrent, and so do I. So, you know, but we do all of the tougher scenes, because there's a lot of tough scenes, whether they're the rape scenes or some of the beating or things like that. You know, it's that tough line you have to straddle, because you don't want to make things sensational just for the sake of it, and you want to do the story justice. But also, you know, to understand Jamie's pain, to understand why he does certain things, you have to see a certain amount. So
Well,
it's
that
always
was, I mean, there
tough.
was that incredible episode. We don't see that on TV, where
No,
the
male
man,
rape is
the
very
man is
rare,
raped.
yeah.
And he goes through that, to the two of them, Tobias and Sam, play that. It's so painful to watch. But what you do is when you come in there, you have to deal with this man who is ashamed
Yeah.
of everything that happened. And you have to kind of bring him back to who he is. That I've never seen the likes of that played on
Yeah,
the
I mean,
show.
it is very unusual subject matter to have on TV, and you know, in that time, you think, and it, you know, it still happens today. These are weapons of war as well. You know, sexual abuse and sexual violence is still used in so many war-torn places, and so, you know, I think you don't want to sensationalize, but we also have to examine that side of society at some point, and I think that's where we, you know, TV can allow us to do that. But, you know, it's a testament to their love and the strength of their bond that Claire is able to, you know, just be there for him and accept him and not judge, and that he feels that he can be himself in front of her and tell her anything. And so that also is why their love is so enduring.
How, Caitriona, did this begin for you? We're all hearing this little accent that is not Claire's.
No, I'm Irish.
Irish. I'm
Yes,
hearing a little bit of it.
They have an Irish girl playing an English woman in Scotland. It's all very complicated.
Perfect. They said, we must have her.
Yeah. I was living in LA when I got this audition. And I used to live here in New York, but I was in LA for about 4 years, and, you know, doing little jobs here and there.
Little jobs? You were a major model.
Well, that was before.
That was before all that. So
Yeah.
you got yourself out of Ireland really fast.
I
What
left
was it?
Ireland when I was 18. I moved to Paris for 2 years, and then I moved to New York.
Oh, poor baby.
I know, it
I'm
was terrible.
sorry I moved to Paris. Right. Yes.
I was very fortunate. I was given a great opportunity. I got scouted, and I got offered this chance to go to Paris to model, and I jumped at it, and I did it for 2 years there. Then I moved to New York, and I was in New York for about 7-8 years. And when I was there, I started taking acting classes again, because originally I was studying theatre in college in Dublin. And I had a great opportunity to travel the world, but it wasn't what I wanted to do. You know, it was never part of the plan. So eventually I started taking acting classes again, and then I quit modeling and I moved to LA, and as you do. But yeah, eventually, I'd had some small parts in movies. And
Well, you were in Devil Wears Prada for 10 seconds?
I mean, I think my ankle was in that. People ask me about that, and I'm
Go
like,
to
I
the
did
clip.
2 days on it. I walked across, Meryl Streep was walking that way, and I think I walked that way, going, it's Meryl. But there was some, I got to speak in a few films. There was also a couple I didn't get to speak in.
That's good, but I'm sure you took Meryl aside and said, give me some pointers.
I did. I was like, Meryl, here's my number. Call me later. I've just got a few questions.
And they said, she's off this movie.
Yeah,
Right,
they were like,
no
get her out of
more.
here. I had a much bigger role, but I got fired. No.
That's it, yeah.
And then, I got this audition, and I'd sent in a tape because it was being cast out of London. And I then screen tested with Sam in LA, and 5 days later I was in Scotland. So 2 days later they offered me the job.
That
They wanted me.
chemistry read was really good.
Well, they were down to the wire. They were supposed to start filming, I think, like the 20th of September, and I arrived in Glasgow on the 15th of September. But the costumes weren't made for me, so they had to push it by about another week and a half. But it was very fast.
Do you have a life after shooting this? I mean, how much of a year is taken up by you shooting Outlander?
It's 10 months. Yeah.
Oh,
And then we get to come and do this.
this, right.
And
then
we
you go
start
right
back in 3.5 weeks. So
Really? It's
Yeah.
already 3.5 weeks for season 4?
yeah, we start filming in about 3.5
So
weeks.
we know there's a season 4. We know
Season 4 has
that
been picked
much.
up, yeah.
And are there enough books that will just take us
Oh,
through?
yes. Diana, I think, is almost finished her 9th book. So it's not going to be a George R.R. Martin situation.
No, she's working.
She's working. I mean, this woman, I have so much admiration for her. I think she's got about 20-something books she has written. She has 3 kids that she raised. She has multiple PhDs and masters. She's just
Does she visit the set ever?
Yeah,
and
she
things?
does,
And
yeah.
she said, that's not my Claire. Well, it's always funny when you
Sometimes she does say that, actually.
I need this.
Yeah, I think with everything, her version of Claire exists in the books, and I always go back to the books, and I use that
We can
so
mash
much.
them with
But you
milk.
have to
Then
make
again,
it
you
your
could
own, and
cook
you have
so,
to.
so.
I'm not
You
sure
can
I
only interpret
cook,
it
but I
through
can
your
certainly
own
boil a potato.
funnel,
sure
I guess.
have
You know,
it.
through your own
You
experiences.
have
So.
to sort of compartmentalize and say, I've got to
Yeah.
do this, you know,
Yeah.
no matter who's here telling me what I need to do.
If it doesn't feel honest and truthful to you, it's never going to work on screen. So.
But with that schedule, it's very difficult to squeeze in that. Last time I saw you in a movie, it was Money Monster. So there
Yeah.
you're directed by
Jodie
Jodie Foster,
which
you've
was
got George
amazing.
Clooney,
Julia Roberts.
Julia Roberts. Did they all come and give you advice? Did they say no off?
No, they were lovely. I mean, Julia was so sweet to me, and I've bumped into her a few times. And Jodie, I mean, Jodie's just, again, like it's you meet women like that, and you're just like amazed at how talented and how smart she is, and she was really sweet, and she's such a lovely woman, and it was an absolute dream to work with her. And we shot in New York City, so that was such a dream for me. But that was between season 1 and 2, and we had a really long hiatus, so it was easy to fit something in. This time's been quite short, but hopefully next time I'll do something else.
Well, there's a lot. What do you see in your future after Outlander's no more, even though I can't bear the idea that that would happen?
You know, I would love, I think like everybody, I would love to do a bit of everything. I would love to do some theatre. It's been many, many, many years since I've done that.
You wouldn't even have time to go to the theatre.
Very rarely.
Yeah.
But I would also love to go behind the camera. At some point, I would love to direct or try my hand at it anyway. And
Seize control.
seize control. I think that's
Hire
what it is.
Sam and slap him around.
I'm a slight control freak, so I think at some point I have to actually see if I can do it better.
Well, this show, this is the first time you've been on, so you don't know that it ends always in song.
Oh, right.
So, do you have anything in Gaelic? Do you have something
Oh, in
that
Gaelic.
was sung to you as a child?
I'm wrote to on Carrick, I'm walker to McGraw. I'm wrote to on Carrick, Nervishe on. There you go.
That's beautiful. What does that mean?
It's about a man who fell in love with a mermaid. So he was like, were you on the rock? Were you on the rock when she was there? Were you on the rock when you saw my love?
I love that.
There you go.
I thought you were going to do Sing Me a Song. No,
That's Scottish.
That's Scottish.
That's
and it's
very
not
different.
Irish. It's
not Irish.
Well, Irish Caitriona, thank you so much for
Thank
being
you
on this
so
show.
much,
it was
Peter.
so much
This
fun
was
to talk
awesome.
to you.
Thank you.